Hey, Audrey.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm logged in on Lauren's account, so that's why it's me, but not her.
Gotcha. Good morning, Kara.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So it looks like we're still waiting on Burke, so I will connect with him here.
Yeah, just thought about it.
All right, good morning, everyone. We're gonna try this again. I had to move positions here. Stuff. What we could do is we could just add more. Add more lift on one side.
Got it.
Yeah.
No. Good if it were like that.
Oh, that one should be a little lower.
Oh, yeah. Pete. The red light box. That's great. Yeah. Grab the one. Like it's not changing. To you?
It has to be so much, it has to come.
Yeah, I have to move it back. This is basic. Do the one.
Okay, well, I just want to provide an update. I'm still trying to get a hold of Burke. He's the last panelist that I'm trying to pin down. So thank you for your patience. And I'll let you know.
No worries. Thanks, Audrey. We're working through a few things over here anyhow.
Okay.
Hey, Brant, would you make just a sound, like unmute yourself so that you pop on screen for me?
A sound, making a sound so that I
Thank you. That's
appear on
plenty.
screen.
Yep. Don't need to hear any more out of you this morning. Thank you. Brant, we're going to do a delay check with you.
Sure.
Miranda, when you want to start, give me count him. 3, 2, 1, check.
And we're going to go ahead and start talking. This is a delay check right now.
Oh, hold on. We're going to have to do that again. Oh. Ready? Stand by. 3, 2, 1, check.
All right, we're doing a delayed check. This is me talking. I'm talking because it is a delayed check.
All right. One more, Brant.
Sure.
3, 2, 1, check.
23 seconds. Stand by.
Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
Burke is going to be coming on shortly.
This is delayed check. Delayed check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry, Audrey, I cut you off.
You're fine. Nope. I was just letting you know that Burke will be here right now.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Hi,
Good morning.
sorry I'm late.
Ah, sorry. Gives me
All
time to give me some
right.
coffee.
Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Ethan Anderson. I'm showing up as Lauren this morning because I'm logged into her account. I'm with News Center One Media Group. Thank you all for joining us today. Brant will be leading our conversation.
I'm sorry, Audrey.
We're just doing a couple of checks on our side, and then we'll do a couple of audio video checks with each of our panelists. If whoever is not a panelist, just make sure you stay muted and your video off for the duration. We are doing these as about 3 7.5-minute segments. So Brant will be on a clock on our side, and we'll wrap up each segment as we go along. He's got the same list of topics and agenda items that you were all given by Audrey. So we're kind of sticking to that today. So if you guys have any questions, we'll work on that in a minute. We're just going to do one more delay check here with Brant, and then we'll do some audio checks with each of you. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, check.
And I'm talking because I've been told to talk. That is my job. I'm told to talk and I'm now talking. and mute myself. We'll be right back.
That looks good for Branch.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll just have each of our panelists unmute and turn their video on, please. And we'll do some just audio checks with each of you and kind of see how that's set up. Kara, if you would just kind of give us a sentence or two and we'll see your video and see how you're doing there.
Yep, I am Kara Graveman in Sturgis, South Dakota.
Kara, could I have you possibly tilt your camera down a little bit or scoot up, one or the other?
Is that better?
Miranda, how's that shot?
Yeah, I'm not looking up at those.
Okay, that works. Thank you. Perfect. Murray, can I get a sentence or so out of you?
Yeah, I'm Murray Lee from United Way of the Black Hills.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Burke.
I'm Burke Eilers from Wellfleet in Rapid City.
Perfect. Yeah, can we tilt down just a little bit? And then if you wouldn't mind, if you would take your mask off from around your neck, if that's possible, that'd be super cool. All righty. Okay, and your audio sounded good as well, so thank you. We will get started here in just a minute.
We just gotta wait for the tornado warning test. It's actually running
Yeah.
right now. Don't worry, just snow tornadoes around here lately.
Burke, are you guys staying busy?
Yeah, we're at capacity. We're full. We could increase if we had more staff. We're at where we're at.
I hear that as a common theme. We're having the
I
same issue.
know. How
Yep.
about you guys?
At New Dawn, we had 5 leave last week. 3 of them successful, 2 just took off. So we've got probably 4 beds open right now, but expect to be full again by the end of the week.
Okay.
Usually it's going down that list of who you can get in first,
Yeah.
and whoever can show up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Times are changing for sure. I think it's going to be interesting this next year.
And then how about like your outpatient stuff?
So our referrals outpatient adolescents went down. The majority of those kids went homeschool exempt all year. And so the behaviors just weren't identified or referred from. Most of our referrals come from school staff or, admin. And so we started to see a decrease in just referrals from schools. It's down 65% this year,
Oh,
which is interesting. Because we know behaviors haven't changed, right?
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
I still need to get down and see your new building too.
Just give me a call.
I know. Well, and we're looking at morphing ABC's after school program into a day treatment facility down the road.
Oh,
Probably for adults, but that is the conversation we're having with the board Friday and the state. So we might have another service in the Northern Hills at some point soon, hopefully.
yeah. That
Oh.
sounds good.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. We are ready to go on our side. So if we can just have everyone radio silent for the next 30 seconds or so. We have a 30-second delay on our side. So we'll just go silent. Brant, if you would make a noise so you pop on screen. And everyone, you
Sure.
can mute and
am I
unmute
gonna
yourself
be-
during this, but
Am I going to be introducing breaks when we do breaks or?
yeah,
Okay.
he'll be introducing breaks.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll count you into those, obviously, Brant, through Unity. So.
All right, good morning. We have an important panel that's been put together this morning. We're talking about, of course, alcohol abuse awareness month. And what we want to do is we will kind of highlight maybe some of the unknowns about this, where we stand as a state, and where we're going forward here about how to treat alcohol abuse. If you have family members, you have friends that are going through this, we have information for you. We have panelists here that are going to be talking about this. What I want to do is go ahead and introduce the panelists here one by one. I'd like to start with Murray Lee, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Brent. My name is Murray Lee. I work for United Way of the Black Hills, and I am the Mental Health Initiative Director here, working on some mental health initiatives through the United Way.
Murray, thank you. And we'll go to Ms. Kara Graveman.
Good morning. My name is Kara Graveman. I've been the Director of Action for the Betterment of our Community since '05. I am a licensed addiction counselor, and we took over management of New Dawn Center in December of 2019. Thanks for having me.
Kara, it's good to have you here. And then we're going to be talking also with Burke Eilers, Executive Director of Wellfully. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
All right, thank you for having me here. So I'm the director at Wellfully. Wellfully is a residential facility that deals with teenage alcohol and drug abuse issues. We're a residential center, so we're dealing with a higher level of issues concerning them. Thanks for including us.
All of you in Port Burke, we're happy to have you. This is an important discussion. What I wanted to start out with is, Kara, if you could just straight out talk about what is alcohol abuse and in its definition. I mean, what are we talking about when we say alcohol abuse?
So alcohol abuse, in short layman's terms, is too much too often. And alcohol dependence is coined as the inability to quit. In 2013, the DSM-5 actually revised everything, and there no longer is the distinction between alcohol abuse and alcohol dependence. It is now considered alcohol use disorder, and we have to coin as professionals a mild, moderate, or severe. So some of the criteria that we look at when we conduct what we call an interview, we look at use history, we look at what we call critical life areas, which is physical problems they're having, psychological or mental health issues, school issues, which also includes work, legal issues, social issues, and family issues, kind of like the dynamics or genetics that might come into play. So some of that criteria that would indicate somebody is abusing alcohol or struggling with alcohol is that the alcohol itself is taken in a larger quantity or a longer period of time than intended. Sometimes a conversation we might have is someone's just not able to stop drinking. They'll start to where they don't go out till after 10 o'clock. They're trying to curb their use that they have and the duration of time that they use. Another criteria is just they have the desire to quit, but they're not successful at quitting or controlling their use. A great deal of time can be spent recovering from alcohol, whether that's hangovers or not feeling well the next day. Cravings is something that we look at pretty closely, where they just have a desire to use. They don't know why, but alcohol is something they think about all the time. We also have recurrent inability to fulfill major roles, going to school, showing up for work the next day. Maybe their spouse is saying that they're not contributing to the household as effectively as they could. Another thing we look at is continued alcohol use despite having issues. Maybe their wife or their husband says that they drink too much. It's causing strain on the relationships. The boss is concerned, but yet we just continue to use regardless of the negatives we're seeing. We start to see important social, recreational, or occupational activities. They tend to reduce or we stop doing them. We also see recurrent alcohol use where it's hazardous. Drinking and driving. Maybe they're having unprotected sex. We start to kind of negate some of the things we know aren't good for us to do. The next thing we look at is that they continue to use this despite having physical or psychological problems that are exacerbated by the alcohol use. A physical example would be maybe diabetes, and they're continuing to drink alcohol. Psychological, maybe their depression gets worse when they drink, yet they continue to use alcohol to help. And then the two largest things we always look at as clinicians is tolerance. Is it taking more for them to feel the same effects that they used to feel when they started drinking? And then the largest one for sure, especially with alcohol, since it's so dangerous physically, is withdrawal. So if they stop drinking, are they shaking? Are they having withdrawal symptoms where they're vomiting? They are needing to go to a detox facility or a hospital. So that's kind of the nutshell of the 11 criteria that we as professionals have to look at when we dive into alcohol dependence and issues with alcohol use.
Would you say that part of it is a search for dopamine, or, it's a search for a good feeling? So, maybe some precursor to this would be someone already has depression, but they're looking for an uplift of some kind. What's the chemical dependence like?
And with most substances, we start to see the depletion of dopamine. The question we as clinicians always have is the chicken or the egg. What came first, the depression or the alcohol use? Were we drinking because we were depressed, or were we depressed because we were drinking? And so that is usually why we need to remember that mental health issues and addiction issues really go hand in hand. They are not different silos. They impact each other almost from the very beginning.
So without getting too much into the subject, because I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but you see someone who is struggling with depression, you see them starting this trend. I mean, is there a way to see the trend starting as opposed to they're already into it? And just kind of quickly, you know what? In fact, we're going to have one of our other panelists kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. Kara, I appreciate that explanation. We're going to take a quick break here, but what I'd like to do is let you guys know that we're going to be talking about the impact of alcohol abuse on family life and what that can do to the people surrounding the issue. It's not just the person, but everyone around does struggle with this. So we'll be right back.
I'm just going to shut my door real quick.
And I'm going to stay muted. I have tornado sirens going on now outside the office.
Okay, we are in break right now on our side. So we'll take about a minute here and then we'll start in with the next segment. This is all pre-recorded, but we're just taking a break to reset on our side.
So it was my understanding that I needed to leave a 30-second buffer for our break. So at 30 seconds, I needed to make sure we were out by 30 seconds, or am I allowed the full 30 seconds to continue talking and whatnot? Kara, I apologize for cutting you off. I wanted to make sure that was great, by the way. I know. Oh, okay. I don't know where Miranda's at. Oh, okay. I can't talk through this because it's locked or muted. It doesn't let me talk. So Murray Lee, you'll be up next. I'll be asking you basically, why is this such an issue in our state and what are the trends that we are seeing?
Okay, great. I hope these tornado sirens stop.
Well, thankfully, if it helps, I don't really hear them. So yes, ma'am.
So because it's like a 32 and a half delay, when I say 30, honestly, that's why 30, y'all need to be kind of done talking.
Okay, so as long as,
basically exactly what you just did.
okay, perfect.
That was perfect.
Yeah, as long as we're doing that, good.
Yep, that's exactly what I want.
Perfect.
That timed out to be about 7:50.
Yeah, all the tornado sirens are warning these days are snow squalls. So what I'll probably end up doing is for this next block is Murray, it'll basically be yours. I'll be kind of bouncing back and forth to you.
Right. We're
Yes,
gonna radio silence.
Okay.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
All right, so we are looking at Alcohol Abuse Awareness Month, and we have all right, so we are back. We are talking about we are back. We are talking about Alcohol Abuse Awareness Month. And one of the subjects that we wanted to kind of touch upon is, why is this such an issue in South Dakota? What are the trends? Why are we seeing it go this way? And one of the panelists that is going to be talking about this is Mr. Murray Lee. You can kind of expand a little bit about why we're seeing this issue in our state.
Yeah, Brant, here at the United Way, we had a community needs assessment done in 2019, and it identified several priority areas that communities said needed to be addressed. And the second top priority that was identified through this was substance and alcohol abuse. And you look at South Dakota and you look at the national trends. The national trend has actually decreased over the same period of time that alcohol abuse and substance abuse has increased in South Dakota. So you look at things like mental health and alcohol abuse, and you have these discussions in these communities throughout the Black Hills, not just Rapid City, but like Belle Fourche, Hot Springs, Lee Deadwood, Spearfish. And the communities themselves are talking about, alcohol abuse and substance abuse as a need that needs to be discussed, needs to be talked about and brought out into the light in their community. Because although here in Rapid City, we have some strides are being made through different program partners that the United Way works with and others in the community, there really isn't that type of facility or access to resources when you're talking about, say, Hot Springs or Deadwood or Belle Fourche. So when you're talking about alcohol abuse and substance abuse, it affects families, it affects communities, and there's this peripheral umbrella that kind of goes hand in hand with mental health issues or domestic abuse issues or child abuse issues or neglect issues. So when you take it as a whole, this cumulative effect that alcohol abuse can have on a family, on a community at large, it's a big problem, and it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that communities want there to be discussions around prevention and awareness to reduce that in communities.
So, when you're kind of discussing about South Dakota, leading in some ways, you're kind of talking about how alcohol abuse usually doesn't just come out of nowhere. That there is something that's leading to it. And perhaps one of those things is the availability of mental health programs in the state of South Dakota, or maybe just accessibility to those programs. Could you maybe expand on that a little bit about how that could lead down a road to substance abuse as far as alcohol abuse?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When I talk about the community needs assessment, Brant, the number one priority that communities wanted to be addressed was mental health and all the peripheral issues around that. Lack of access to affordable care, lack of access to providers. So when you talk about that and you talk about mental health issues, and you begin to see youth that are being affected by mental health issues, whatever that stems from, absolutely there's going to be these stepping stones that lead them to alcohol use, alcohol misuse, substance abuse, and all those things, especially when you're talking about youth, those need to be addressed as early as possible to work upstream from that problem, whether that's providing more access to mental health services to reduce that alcohol abuse or your use in the first place.
So because of this recognition of the issue, United Way of the Black Hills is rolling out an initiative here to try and address this.
Yes, we're working on the mental health initiative here in the Black Hills region, not just Rapid City, but around the Black Hills. I've been having conversations with providers, with individuals, with organizations, talking about where are the priorities, where do they exist, what are the gaps that exist, and it's things that are commonly talked about even in communities. Things like we don't have a treatment facility, we don't have access to counselors, and even these organizations, they don't have the ability to hire counselors because there's a lack of counselors. So the United Way, one of the things we're doing now is it's a youth prevention model called Communities That Care, working here in Rapid City, gathering key leaders to implement this 5-phase program to really work upstream for delinquent behaviors, substance abuse issues among youth. And that's starting, we're working with that through the support from the John T. Vukurovich Foundation, United Way is facilitating that effort here in Rapid City. And the hope is that this effort, as its success is realized over the years, will spread throughout the Black Hills. So that's one thing we're working on directly right now, is to work on this youth prevention model here in Rapid City to address some of those issues around mental health and delinquent behaviors and alcohol and substance abuse.
So addressing the issues of, some things that people may not think about is actually getting counselors to come here. You may have the funding, but you got to get the counselors here. And then once the counselors are here, securing that funding, making sure they're accessible, they're affordable, all important topics that looks like United Way of the Black Hills is looking to discuss and have an initiative for. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, once again, the impact of alcohol abuse on family life. Even if you're not directly drinking, you may have a family member that does, and that can have effects. We're going to talk about that coming up. Okay. Check. Okay. All right. Cool. That was good. Thank you. So the next segment, this next segment will be Mr. Burke, you'll be up, and we'll be talking about.
If you need to chat a little bit, but we're ready.
Okay. What are some of the signs of substance abuse in family settings? And what are the potential long-term effects for children subjected to exposure? So we're going to go into a radio silence here and we'll be ready to go. All right, welcome back. We are talking about the impact of alcohol abuse in family life. Mr. Burke Eilers, Executive Director of Wellfully. What are some of the signs of substance abuse in family settings, particularly, if you can shed light on that?
Well, it does change from adult to child or teen. With teenagers, probably the biggest clue is some kind of sudden change, something that's different than what has been the norm. And that's hard to differentiate as kids go through different developmental stages. A lot of things change at the same time, but if they're more withdrawn, if they're sad, there's less communications. And then there's the physical signs. If they're sleeping in, missing school, seem to be sick or lethargic. Those are all kind of clues to something going on. With adults, it oftentimes can be more of a slow progression. the going from a social drinker to having a addiction problem can take sometimes years, and it can progress over time. But the biggest thing as far as a family member, whether it be an adult or child, is just that withdrawal and sudden change from normal behavior, like eating less or missing work and school, lower grades, only hanging out with friends, more confrontational, all those kind of clues.
What are some of the potential long-term effects for children who are subjected to the exposure of alcohol abuse?
Well, the biggest factor, I think, is where they are from a developmental standpoint. If you just take school, for example, if they're dealing with addiction and they are not attending high school, they may not graduate from high school. They may be in the 9th grade or 10th grade for a number of years. And so that missing and messing up their educational situation can have long-term consequences as far as employment and all that sort of thing. There's also kind of a social aspect. There's a lot of times when we're dealing with teens and trying to go through peers and peer pressure and friends, there's like drug buddies, friends that are they're friends socially, but only because they share a common interest and kind of support each other in their use and abuse. True friends really are looking out for the general health and well-being of their co-friend or whatever the case is, and they're more accepting of the person no matter what. They don't have to prove anything or be anything. It's just they like that person for the person that they are. So we try to help the kids differentiate real friends from their drug buddies. And so what I'm implying is that it can mess up their socialization and their ability to pick friends and to know what is right and wrong and to have a more balanced life. A lot of times kids that are maybe active in sports or other kind of after school curriculum or clubs, when they're dealing with addiction, they withdraw from that. They're no longer playing basketball or football, and they're no longer part of this club or that club. And so, that whole integration and learning, that a developmental aspect greatly gets hindered by this.
So I guess it's all about kind of looking for those signs as well. The
signs, and it does get complicated because there is generational addiction. We all learn as young people, either from like school and experience, but we also learn from modeling. And if there's addiction in the family, that's deemed normal. The dysfunction that oftentimes occurs at the family level with an adult or a parent or another guardian in their home dealing with addiction, that becomes the normal kind of way of life. And so that kind of behavior is sometimes kind of set as an example for them. And then, there is also a physical aspect of addiction that can be passed on from, your parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles. And it may not necessarily manifest itself in addiction, but it's probably going to manifest itself in overdoing something. But you combine that tendency to overdo something with an environment that's conducive to use and abuse, then that's kind of a perfect storm that can sometimes develop.
I wanted to get everyone's last thoughts on all of this. If Murray, can you talk a little bit more about 211 and the resources if you do find someone going through this situation?
Yeah, if you do find someone, a family member, a colleague, a community member, please reach out to 211. They have access to resources that can get the help needed for that person.
And Kara, if you can talk about maybe some tips on how to console or be a safe person to confide in a situation like this.
Absolutely. Some of the things I'll say first, listen more than you talk. This is a hard process for any loved one or not even a loved one. Be consistent. We try to put rules out there and to say, if you do this, then I'm going to do that. Be consistent with whatever you feel you're obligated to do. be predictable. You know, make sure that you understand that what this person is going through is one of the most difficult transitions back into recovery. Show unconditional love, but also concern. Set boundaries, and then help them seek help. A lot of times we get phone calls, people don't even understand how to start the process about getting someone help. Even calling 211 or calling an agency that doesn't necessarily work with that population, we're more than willing to point you in the right direction.
So it sounds like 211 is a great resource to kind of put all this together. I want to thank all the panelists for their time to talk about this. I have family members who have struggled with this, and I've learned something today from this. So we want to make sure that if you do have questions, you know, maybe there's a question you had that wasn't answered by this panel, 211 is a wonderful resource to get you connected to the resources that can help. So once again, appreciate all of your time, and there will be more discussions on stuff like this in the future, so long as there is a need to discuss it.
Okay, we're clear. Thank you, everybody. Sorry for those awkward, like, last 30 seconds. They're always super fun. But we did it.
That was helpful. That was really great. I appreciate your guys' time on this. I learned something. So you know, that's important.
Yes. Yes, I want to thank every single panelist that participated. And again, yeah, very informational, and of course brought awareness, which is key, you know, especially with some of these topics. Of course, you know, it's something that we all think that maybe everybody knows about, but of course, you know, there may be some folks who just don't. So appreciate your time and your experience. And of course, a special thank you to New Center One for being willing and available to share this information with the public.
And people that do know about it, sometimes there's a stigma to not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good that there's a group of people who are talking about it on a wide platform. I appreciate your guys' time on this. So
Thank you.
All
no
right.
more tornado sirens? We still got those, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm going to hop out of this, Brent. We'll see you in the next call.